there's a lot of Maverick stuff happening, including the fact, and this happened 10 seconds after we went to break, is Luka's technical foul has been rescinded. He is now once again eligible to play tonight against the Pacers. I don't know if that affects the betting community, but I want to take a look at that.
The word rescinded makes it sound like they're sending it again, and I'm like,
Yeah,
it's always
17.
weird to me. But yeah, this is weird because Mike, you were just pointing out most of the Pacers roster sitting on the bench.
This is huge for the Pacers to lose tonight. But it doesn't.
You're going to be back in.
It doesn't mean the Mavericks can't lose. They just lost back-to-back games to Charlotte without LaMelo Ball. I mean, they are losing at a very fast pace right now. But the Pacers know if the Pacers win this game, they'd have 42 losses. It would put the Mavs at 40 losses, and then the Mavs would hold the tiebreaker for a better pick because the Pacers would have won the series 2-0. So I think the Pacers front office is looking at this going, we could go from 7th pick to possibly 9th or 10th pick, and one of those games we would regret winning is here late against the Mavericks. So I could see Rick Carlisle playing weird rotations just to and he still might win. He still might accidentally win against this team, but I think the Pacers are now looking at this game going, guys, if we put out a good team, we'll destroy this Maverick team.
Kevin, what do you think Rick Carlisle would get more pleasure from? Losing the game and gaining or traction in the draft, or winning the game and just beating the Mavericks?
I still think I know all the logical reasons the first scenario makes sense, but here's why I think it's the second one. I want to go to cut number 6.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how long it's been. People want their vengeance in whatever way. And this is Dennis Smith Jr. talking about the Mavs after he closed it out just about 2 different games.
Not just with the Mavs being your former team, but with them having so much to play for, does it make these wins even sweeter?
Hell yeah. I told you, we came in that's all we said pregame, put their ass in the dirt. It was straight like that, and we came out and executed and got 2 wins in a row.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know if that'll be Rick Carlisle's exact speech before the game, but I bet it will be something like that.
Straight like that.
Yeah. I mean, it could be.
I will say this. Good for Dennis Smith Jr.
Yeah.
He's still not that good at basketball, and he just kicked our butts.
He did. He really did. So, my question for y'all here then is, who deserves the bulk of the blame for this? Because, coming up at 4 o'clock, Tim McMahon with the G-Bag Nation, I'm sure he can elaborate. But on a podcast this morning, it kind of sounds like he's voting for Jason Kidd, does it not?
Obviously, I don't have it right in front of me, but he pretty much said the team has tuned out Jason Kidd. You can tell. After yelling at them 36 hours before the next game against Charlotte and telling them, he even in the media said it's horse ass. Like, he didn't care at that point. He is like, this is horse ass, and just called out the team and called out their energy and effort. And so then the next game they play against a horrible team in Charlotte. They're down 30-12 to start the game, which just shows there's nothing Jason Kidd can really say. As much as I don't like Jason Kidd as the coach, I love him as a Dallas Maverick player. Horrible NBA basketball coach. I think that the sooner you get rid of him, the better, because he can't do it at this level and probably can't do it at all. Great basketball player. But you can tell now that there's nothing he can do. The Mavericks don't care about what Jason Kidd says or any of his assistant coaches. They don't believe in multiple ways about this team. But I would blame Mark Cuban. He's the one from 2018 to 2023 that has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Whether it was, we're going to stay under the cap because somehow he thinks he knows the CBA better than anybody. And what I'm talking about is, after trading for Porzingis, he had a chance to be an over-the-cap team. He could have gone over the cap or right about at the cap and then signed Porzingis to the max extension. But that would have put him in financially having to pay more money than what he wanted to pay. So he decided, no, let's get rid of Harrison Barnes for nothing. Let's re-sign Dwight Powell for $11 million a year rather than chasing after free agents. Unless Giannis wants to come here, I'm not chasing anybody. I want to stay underneath the luxury tax. So that was horrible decision number 1. And then you just start going along the path of bad decision after bad decision. Tim Hardaway Jr., bringing him back. Pathetic decision. You just look at, obviously I give him a little bit of leeway on Jalen Brunson And what I mean by that is I understand in January how they weren't sold on Jalen Brunson being what he has become. But then, unfortunately, he didn't offer him the max contract in the offseason to just say, I get it, man.
Yeah.
I get what is in New York, and I can't compete with Madison Square Garden. I can't compete with your dad. I can't compete with the family that you have there. I can't compete that's with your favorite team of your life. What I can do is I can offer you 5 years and $150 million, and they can't do that. I'd love to have you here. But he told he told his coach, I'm not offering more than $20 million. So I'm not going to compete in this. So I can make the excuse of, we didn't have a chance to make an offer. My ass. Everybody has a chance to make an offer on their own free agent. You refuse to go to the max on him to make it a tough decision.
And you look at candidates, it feels like there's candidates across the board.
Can I add my candidate here? Whoever team leadership is, whoever it's supposed to be.
And part of that's Luka for sure, then, right?
Is it though?
Is it not?
I think he's the best player, but I don't know how much of. I don't know. That's the question I'm asking here.
I would
feel
say
like somehow Spencer
it has
Dinwiddie,
to be Luka.
Like, was Dinwiddie the guy that was keeping things together? Like, everybody was like at this point of about to break, and Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith were like, "Hey, no, this is how we do things." I think Dorian was out for a while, so Dinwiddie was there, and I feel like he was part of the connection, but nobody's saying, man, we're rallying behind Luka. We're all part of it. And where he goes, Kevin, mentally during games, isn't good leadership either.
No.
So, like, that's where whatever team leadership is, I think it's an abyss right now.
It does have to be Luka by this. When you have the ball in your hands that much, when you control this much, because if in my lifetime, I'll go to my lifetime. Dr. J was the leader of the Sixers. Magic and Larry were the leaders of their teams. Michael and Isaiah were the leaders of their teams. Olajuwon was the leader of their team. David Robinson was the leader, and then it turned over to Tim Duncan. Shaq was the leader of the Lakers, then it turned to Kobe after Shaq. Like, the best player has to really be the leader if you're going to win. It's almost impossible with the game of the way basketball is, especially in today's game where they allow the star player to control 80% of the offense. If you're not the leader of the team, you're going to end up losing because it can't really be somebody else who stands in a corner and watches basketball.
And that's where I am right now, is that it's on Luka for not being a better leader for this team right now. Whenever things are going bad, somebody's got to be the one to pull it together.
Well, and because you look at, I don't know if we want to play this. I mean, it's cut 14, but I think it's Callie Kaplan who tweeted out is Luka didn't look like himself, walk slowly to the bench, didn't reciprocate high fives, plopped down on a chair separate from the huddle. And then we go to cut number 14. Now, this was actually after Friday's game. So this is not after yesterday's game, but they did lose to Charlotte in both of them. This is Luka. Just listen to it.
I mean, yeah, it's really frustrating. I think you can see it with me on the court. Sometimes I don't feel it's me, just being out there. I used to have really fun, smiling on court, but it's just been so frustrating, maybe for a lot of reasons, not just basketball.
What else is going on?
I don't talk about my private life. Just a lot going on.
Okay, even putting that part aside, he just, I don't know if broken is too strong a word, but just the way
because he did have 40, 12, and 8 last night.
Yeah. No, I just mean
even though he
broken,
didn't try it all in the first quarter.
Like when he's talking, he just sounds so downtrodden, and that is unfortunate. And if he is the guy who's like talking to everyone or getting them in that headspace, it's probably hard not to kind of like drag a little bit off of that.
So I do know these, and look, you can take it as my opinion, but it's not really my opinion. I've heard from people, so you can say, well, your people are wrong. JaVale McGee doesn't like Luka Doncic, doesn't like playing with him, and that's why he's pretty much quit on the Mavs 5 games into the season. He's like, I don't want to play with him.
Should have thought about that crap before you signed here, JaVale.
And that was Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd made promises that Jason Kidd did not keep very quickly, and then McGee was like, I don't really care to play in this system with this guy, so I quit. Just give me my $15 million over 3 years. I do know that Tim Hardaway Jr. has recently in team meetings called out Luka and said, I pretty much don't like you. So that's probably tough as a guy who just turned 24, that Magoo doesn't like you. Tim Hardaway Jr. doesn't like you. Not so much publicly, but I do know pretty much that Kyrie Irving isn't crazy about playing in this Luka Doncic system. So that's another guy that I know has come out. Christian Wood and him have had obviously issues. Christian Wood came on our station with us and said, Yeah, but he's like, Luka yells at me a lot, and I know like I have to take it, this and that. I'm not saying Christian Wood has not come out privately or publicly and said, I don't like this guy. But Tim Hardaway Jr. has. JaVale McGee behind the scenes has. Kyrie Irving is kind of like, look, I have no problem with Luka Doncic as a person. I'm just not crazy about playing in the Luka Doncic offense. And that's why I'm not really crazy about possibly staying here long term. And so I do think there is now all of a sudden, and they're having team meetings about this. Tim Hardaway Jr. is so upset that he had to express his feelings tremendously in a team meeting to say how much he doesn't like Luka Doncic pretty much and stuff like that. And so I think that there's a lot of that going on recently. So if you've had multiple meetings where teammates are expressing, we don't really like playing with you, that's not really fun to then want to go out there the next day and be like, all right, high five, guys, let's go. You know, it's kind of like, well, crap, I don't know how to high five you guys or not. You guys don't even really like playing with me.
And it's the outcome of all of that is, even though Luka got the tech rescinded and he would be eligible to play tonight, is back-to-back losses to the Hornets. 3 games below 500, 3-8 when Luka and Kyrie play together. And then you brought this up. We talked about this earlier. The Mavs were 29-26, and they're 7-12 since that trade in general. And then, like, one of the things that became a talking point yesterday is, did Kyrie get somebody kicked out of the game because they were yelling at him, the earth is round, the earth is round? And
that's what it was?
Yeah. Supposedly. I saw the video, I listened to the audio. It was tough for me to make out, but the person who sent it said that's what that person was saying. And like, so those are just the things that you just kind of have to deal with.
If that shakes the player, then I got concerns about the player. Like, I know the skills are there, but if that's shaking his mindset during a game, come on.
I worry about Kyrie in this way. After the game, I listened to it. I don't have the quote in front of me, and I don't want to take it out of context. He wasn't saying winning and losing means absolutely nothing to me, but he kind of mentioned yesterday, and he mentioned other things about winning and coming together. So I do not want to do this like the way the national media is doing this to Kyrie. It's amazing. Kyrie's taking all the blame nationally for this.
Yeah, and so when you brought that up, I was like, man, I do not really feel like that's the case here.
We had a CBS minute thing where they took a shot at Kyrie. They have Kendrick Perkins talking about Kyrie. All the national shows are like, this Kyrie thing really screwed up. Look at how Kyrie leads you to death. And I'm like, here it's like, we know that Kyrie's had 3 miserable games in a row. He's been horrible these last 3 games. People don't even want to point that out, but he has been miserable these last 3 games with the Mavs. Is that Kyrie mentioned yesterday after the game, kind of in his life right now, where he is with perspective of life and basketball and the balance of it. Winning and losing doesn't determine kind of happiness or sadness or anything in that type of way he was expressing it. And honestly, in a way in life, that's pretty darn good. The problem is there's so many cutthroat guys that you're competing against that have winning and losing does mean life or death, does mean my reputation. I just don't know Kyrie, how committed he really is to Dallas and wanting to win, because he sees himself as not really committed to this organization. And I understand, because he's a free agent at the end of the year. He didn't really want to be traded to Dallas, but he was cool with it because it got him out of Brooklyn. Yeah. And Dallas is under a huge amount of pressure to just give him everything he wants, and he does like that. Then he'll ask out in January. But I just think that Kyrie is not the type of person to lead you out of anything. He's honestly been a very poor leader throughout his whole NBA career. If you're looking for leadership from Kyrie, it ain't happening.
And it probably won't surprise you to know that fans and reporters across the nation had a lot of thoughts about this Mavericks team. The aforementioned Tim McMahon, during the game yesterday, tweeted out the Mavs rank last in the league in fun right now. And Tim Cato tweeted out, I fear the Mavericks are not beating the unserious allegations. Because they're like, remember, that was Friday. It was like, hey, we weren't serious about this game. And they came out and they were getting destroyed to start yesterday's game as well. Zach Harper, Mavs do not want to see the playoffs. And it goes on and on. Are the Mavericks really about to lose back-to-back games to the Charlotte Hornets? And then there's anime memes. There's all kinds of stuff. Just the Mavs are not a serious team. Just again and again and again about going after the Mavericks after these back-to-back games against Charlotte.
And Corey, I like that you said Luka. I say Mark Cuban. I think the pie is
Mark
full.
Cuban too, yeah.
The pie is super full. Cuban deserves blame. Luka deserves blame. Kid deserves blame. Kyrie deserves a little bit of blame. The role players deserve blame.
Maybe
Like
Nico.
there's not a person. Yeah, Nico. There's not a person. Dirk deserves blame. Honestly, Michael Finley deserves blame. Like everybody deserves blame for this horrible season for the Dallas Mavericks. But I do like that we are criticizing Luka. I don't like that he's not happy, and I don't know what's going on in his life, but he should be unhappy with this season. This is a horrible season in general for the Dallas Mavericks, and maybe when he goes home to Slovenia, he looks at himself and goes, I have to change as a leader. Do I have to change my game a little bit? I probably do have to change my game a little bit. But not only that, I have to change the way that I do things. Because you know what? It's not good for, as Kobe called them, Kobe called all his role players a-holes. You can read it in books. He's quoted, those are a-holes. But I need my a-holes to be good basketball players, as in this. I need those a-holes to set picks. I need those a-holes to know where to be. I need those a-holes to make shots when I give them shots. So, Dirk, you have some of the worst a-holes in basketball because Mark Cuban has given you some really bad players. But you cannot goof around before games. Those guys, as Kobe calls them a-holes, they need to get ready for the basketball game. And you throwing half-court hook shots and kicking the ball as high as you can to see if it goes in. Kleba and Dwight Powell have ran with this. And those guys D around before games, maybe more than Luka actually does. Those guys cannot get ready to play good first quarters when it's just D around time for 15 minutes before the game starts.